Good afternoon, all of you. Yeah, good afternoon. Am I audible? Yes, good afternoon, Mayank, Pushpak, Nitish, Reharsh, Ayush, Jasmine, Archita Mohanty, Archita Behra. Okay, thanks for the confirmation. So, rainy afternoon to all of you. Yes, yet some are missing in the class. I hope all of you have your books in front of you. If you have your books or if you're following any PDF or anything else, then please keep it open. Yes, Saswat, good afternoon. Yes, Saswat. Keep your books and whatever you refer. If you don't have your books, if you have your PDF, please keep it open. And yes, keep a pen or a pencil with you ready, as I'll be giving you the meanings of certain words and I'll be explaining some lines. So you need to mark it. 13, 12 have yet entered. I think more 12 to come. Okay, can anyone tell me what is the name of the chapter or the name of the poetry that we are going to discuss today? You should know which poetry we are going to discuss. Name the poetry that we are going to discuss. Yes, A Legend of the Northland. Fine, okay. Now, The Legend of the Northland is written by a lady, a poetess. Her name is Phoebe Cary. Her name is Phoebe Cary. Her name is pronounced as Phoebe. It is Phoebe. It's pronounced as Phoebe Cary. She's an American poetess. She's an American poetess, and this poetry that we are going to discuss today is called a ballad. It's called a ballad. B-A-L-L-A-D, ballad. If you go to the end of the poetry, you can see there's a box. It's mentioned over there. A ballad is a song narrating a story in short stanzas. Ballads are a part of folk culture or popular culture and are passed on orally from one generation to another. In short, ballads are, yes, Ayush, you are right. She's a female and she's the poetess of the poetry. Now, ballad is actually a story which is written in the form of a poetry. Though it is a poetry, but it is actually a short story which is being narrated, and this gives a moral value. So that is what is called a ballad. And it is a part of the folk culture. Folk culture means it's a part of the culture. Like in our culture also, we have a lot of stories which our grandparents tell us, through which we get moral values. So it's a part of a folk culture which is being transferred from one generation to another. So grandparents tell their children tell their kids. So the story keeps on transferring from one generation to the other. Fine, so this is all about the meaning of ballad. Now come to the story. Now this ballad is about a saint named Saint Peter, who narrates the legend of an old lady. Saint Peter is angered. Saint Peter gets angry because of a lady, So let's look into the poetry and find out what actually happens, what the lady does that Saint Peter is angered. Now I begin with the first stanza. Away, away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. So can you tell me which part of the world is the poetry talks about? Which part of the globe is the poetry, is this being highlighted? Near North Pole. Okay. See, Northland means, yes, you're right. Northland means the part of the northernmost part of the earth. It's near the North Pole. And as you all know, Northland means northern part of the globe. North Pole means it is very cold. So there what happens? The hours of the days are few. That means the days are short and the nights are long. So the first line tells us about the place, that is Northland. Second line tells us that the days are short. Third line tells us that the nights are long. And what is the season? Which season it is? Which season is mentioned? Find out which season is mentioned in the first stanza. Winter, yes. So here they're talking about winter. Even in our country also, in winters, we find in our place what happens in winter, the days are short and nights are long. Same thing over here, there the days, hours are few and the nights are too long. They are so long that it is not possible for them to sleep throughout. See, the nights are for long hours. How much will they sleep? So that is what is mentioned in the last line, that they cannot sleep them through. The days, the nights are so long that they cannot sleep throughout the night. They sleep, but they have spare hours to spend. Then comes where they harness the swift reindeer. Harness, the meaning of harness is to tie. Now, when you have pets, when you have animals, what do? You tie them. Now here, in cold countries, they have reindeer. Reindeers are a type of deer. You might have seen, if you have seen Santa Claus, his pictures, you might have seen reindeers pulling the sledge over the snow. If you remember those animals, they look like deer, they are called reindeer. So where they harness the swift reindeer, that means the reindeers are tied up. Try to understand the first line. The reindeers are tied up. And why the reindeers are called swift reindeer? Because they are very smooth. Their movement is very smooth on the snow. They sit on the sledge and they smoothly move on the snow. So they are all tied or harnessed over there. The word you mentioned in the poetry. To the sledges. Sledges are the vehicle which is pulled on snow. When it snows and the children look like bears' cubs. Bears' cubs means young ones of the animal bear. So the children, they look like the babies of bear. Why? Because of their furry clothes. Ayush, it might be because of the internet connectivity at your end. Not an issue, you can listen to it again. Now what happens is the children, they look like the babies of bear. Why? Because they wear furry clothes. Furry clothes, you understand, the long furs they have. So as the kids, they wear furry clothes, they look like the babies of the bear. So the first and the second stanza is actually talking about Northland, the people of Northland, how they look, how the children look, and they are giving you a kind of visualization. They are making you visualize that scene of North Pole with reindeer, snow, children looking like babies of bear. Is it clear till now, the first two stanza? Just give me a thumbs up so that we can proceed further. Okay, fine. Yes, thanks. Now see, they tell them a curious story. Now, can you tell me what is they over here? First line of stanza 3. They tell them a curious story. So what is that they? Do you have any idea? Who is that they talked about? Yes, who is that they? They stands for the people of Northland, the grandparents or the people of Northland. They tell them, very good. Yes, grandparents. They refers to children. They refers to grandparents. Correct. So they refers to the people of Northland, to the grandparents of Northland, who tell the stories to them. Them means the small kids over there who look like bear cubs. So they tell the stories to the small kids. What is the story? It's a very curious stories. Now, curious means a story that makes you very eager to know. Sometimes you hear certain stories which arouses a lot of questions. So these stories are also like that. They make the children eager. So that is the reason the stories are described as curious stories. I don't believe it's true. Now here, the poetess is saying she doesn't believe that the stories are true. Now, mark over here, apostrophe TIS is the same as its. It is same as its. It is actually called as a poetic device or a poetic license. In poems and all, the poets, they write like this. We cannot write, but they do write like this. So these are called poetic license. TIS is same as IT apostrophe S, its. So the poetess says that I don't believe it's true. What is true? It means the story or the ballad is true. And yet you will learn a lesson if I tell you, if I tell the tale to you. But they contain a message. They contain a moral value. These stories may not be true, but they contain a moral value. If I tell the tale to you, if I tell you the story to you, tale means story. If I tell the story to you. Now the next one. So this, again, they are talking about the people of Northland, the children over there. Now in the fourth stanza, here is the entry of a new character, that is Saint Peter. Once when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below. Now, who is Saint Peter? Saint Peter is the follower of Jesus Christ. He's the follower of Jesus Christ. You can look at the book also, the meaning has been written. He's the follower of Jesus Christ. Now, once upon a time, when Jesus Christ lived on the world. See, God, we believe that God lives in the heaven. So when he lived on earth in the world, what happened to him? He lived in the world below. He moved on. He walked. Now, saints, they do not do any work. They do not work or do not do any labor like us. Their main work is to move from door to door, preach. Preach means give religious teachings to people, and they move from door to door for food and shelter. So Saint Peter, when he lived on earth, lived on the world, in the world, so what he did, he walked about preaching. So he kept on moving around preaching. Preaching means delivering religious talks, right? I have already explained, Ayush. Delivering religious talks. Now, what he did, he delivered religious talks just as he did, you know. So what was he? Saint Peter was the follower of Jesus Christ. He lived in the world, and what he did, he kept on moving from door to door and preaching religious talks. Fine. Ayush, I told you eager means कुछ जानने के लिए बहुत उतावला होना. If you want to know something, you are very excited to know. So that is the meaning of eager. Now coming to the next stanza. Once when he came to the door of a cottage. Now Saint Peter is moving from door to door. While moving, he came to the door of a cottage. He comes to the door of a cottage. In traveling around the earth, while traveling around the earth, he comes to the door of a cottage. Where a little woman, what was happening in the cottage? A little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. Hearth, mark the word over here. Hearth means the floor of the fireplace. You can write it down also. Hearth means the floor on the fireplace. So she was making cakes and she was baking cakes on the hearth. Yes, and being faint and fasting. Now Saint Peter is moving around from door to door. He comes to a cottage. There he sees a lady who is making cakes on the hearth, and now over there he being faint and fasting. Fasting means not eating anything. The saint did not eat anything. And being faint. Faint means he was feeling very weak. Who? The saint. He was feeling very weak and he was almost about to faint. Why was he feeling weak? Because he was fasting. For the day was almost done. The day was almost done. This gives an idea that the day was almost over and it was almost the time for the night to start. It was almost evening. So the whole day the saint kept on moving from door to door for food and the day was almost coming to an end. He asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one as he was hungry. So he asked the lady that please give me one cake from the store of cakes that you have. Fine. Is it clear till now? Because I'll be asking you some questions now. Then we'll move on to the next page. Okay, the first question is, yes, the first question is, what, quick, you have to quickly type an answer. What was the little woman making? What was the little woman making? Yes, right answer. Mayank, correct answer. First one to give the answer. Cakes. Okay. What? My next question. What kind of poetry is this? What kind of, my question, please pay attention. What kind of poetry it is? It's a ballad. Good. Fine. Okay. How did the next question? How did the children look like? I repeat, how did the children look like? Bear's cub. Okay, correct. What was the next question? What was the name of the saint? What was the name of the saint? Yes, his name was Saint Peter. Okay, now it's a one sentence question. You have to answer it in one complete sentence. What did the saint do throughout the day? What did the saint do throughout the day? What did he do throughout the day? Okay, somebody has written preaching. Okay, he was preaching and wandering from door to door. He was preaching and wandering. Yes. See, when somebody moves from door to door, that is called wandering. Wandering. I'm writing it down. It's called wandering. He comes, okay, fine. He moves from door to door, and what he did? He was preaching. He was giving religious talks. Why was this? Why did the saint was about to faint? My question, next question. Why the saint was about to faint? The saint was doing okay, very harsh. Why was he about to faint? Saint Peter. Because he was fasting. Correct answer. Fine. So done. Come to the next page. I'll again come back to the question answer round, but then we will move on to the next stanza, next page. Now the next stanza, because he was fasting on that day and didn't eat anything. Okay, fine. The next stanza. So she made a very little cake. Now Saint Peter asked her to give her some cakes. So she made very little cakes. But as it baking lay, that means she made small cakes. She kept it in front of her, and when the cake was lying in front of her, she thought that it seemed too large to give away. She found the cake to be too large to give it to somebody free of cost to eat. So she made a little cake, and then when she kept it for baking, she found the cake, she saw the cake to be so big. She found it big enough, large to give away. Now then, therefore she needed another. Needed another means need. Mark this word needed. Needed means when you might have seen when your mothers, they make chapati, they knead the flour with water. So that's called kneading. So what they did, what she did, she again kneaded, and still a smaller one. After kneading, she made a small piece of dough. She made a small cake, but it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. She kneaded, and then she made a tiny piece of cake, but that cake also looked as large as the first piece of cake. Fine. So this shows that the lady was quite a greedy woman. She was greedy. She was selfish. She was miser. Miser means conjuice. M-I-S-E-R. She was miser also. Yes, correct. Now the next stanza. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough. Scrap means little amount of dough. Dough means when you put water in that flour and when you knead it, it becomes a dough. So she took a tiny amount of dough and she rolled it. When you make chapatis, what you do? You roll it, your parents, your mother, they roll it. So she rolled it and baked it as thin as a wafer. Wafer means the chip. The chips you eat, right? Those chips very thin. So she rolled it flat and she baked it as a wafer, as thin as wafer. But she couldn't part with that. Couldn't part means she was such a greedy woman. She still found the cake to be big to give away. Part here means to separate, to give away. The meaning of part is to give away. Fine? Okay. For she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself. Now she's saying, when I eat the cakes myself, the cakes are too small, are yet too large to give away. But when I make cakes to give it to someone else, they look very big. Same piece of cake, when she's making it for herself, she found it very big. But the same piece of cake, when she is thinking of giving it to someone else, she found it very big. So after thinking that, what she did, she didn't give anything to the saint and she simply kept the cakes on the shelf. She put all the cakes on the shelf. Then good Saint Peter grew angry. Now Saint grew angry because he was hungry and the lady did not give him anything to eat. He was hungry. So he became angry. For he was hungry and faint. Why was he angry? Because he was feeling hungry and he was about to faint. Faint matlab behosh ho jana. And surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. This kind of action was enough to provoke. Provoke means to make somebody angry. This action was enough to make the saint angry. What was the action? The action of not giving anything for the saint to the saint for eating. This action made the saint very angry. Is it clear so far? Let me know if it's clear till now. Any doubts, you can text. You can text if you have any doubts. Then we'll proceed with the next stanzas. Okay. Fine. Yes. And coming to the next stanza. And he said, who he? Saint Peter. Saint Peter said, you are far too selfish. Saint Peter is directly telling the woman, you are so selfish. You are very, very selfish woman. To dwell in a human form. To dwell means to survive. Dwell ka matlab hai to survive, to live in the form of a human. Because being human beings, we should help each other. We should not be greedy and selfish like the woman. So she was quite selfish to live in the form of a woman. Being a woman, being a human being, she got food, she got shelter, and she got fire to keep her warm. I don't know because it's nowhere mentioned, Pushpak, whether she was a shopkeeper or not. But anyway, I don't think she was a shopkeeper. Most of the time, what happens, foreign country, they keep on making cakes. Cake is the food, staple food. Like for us, we eat rice. It is a staple food. For them, cake, biscuits, all these are staple food. So maybe she was preparing for herself. Otherwise, no clue has been given nowhere whether she was a shopkeeper or she was someone else. Probably not. because Saint Peter went to a cottage. Cottage means a house, so it was not a shop. Coming back to the stanza, now this Saint Peter said that you are living as a human being, getting food and shelter and also getting fire to keep yourself warm. You don't deserve it. Being a human being, you don't deserve so much of comfort in life. Despite of getting so much of comfort, you are so selfish that you cannot give a cake to a saint. And now, you shall build as the birds do. Now, the saint has become very angry. Now, here the saint is actually cursing the woman. Curse matlab abhishap dena. So, the saint became very angry and the saint started cursing the woman. You will live like a bird. That means she will not live her life like human beings anymore. She'll become a bird. You shall build as the birds do. That means you will build your own nest like the birds build. And shall get your scanty food. Birds, you might have seen, they fly from here and there in search of food. In the same way, the bird will keep on, the lady will become a bird and she'll keep on flying from one place to another in search of food. Scanty means very less. Scanty means very less amount. I have written the meaning of dwell, Ria, you can check. Okay, yes, survive. Correct. I have also written it. I guess yes, it will go. Yeah. Fine. Now see, so the lady will also become a bird, because of her selfish nature. The saint cursed her that she'll become a bird and she will move here and there in search of food. By boring and boring and boring. Over here, the meaning of boring is not that the movie is boring, not that boring. Here, boring means to dig. If you have seen birds, what they do, they dig especially woodpeckers, what they do? They dig the wood, the bark of the trees. Why? To collect insects. These insects are their food. So in the same way, the woman will become a bird and she will keep on boring, that means digging and digging and digging all the day hard. That means throughout the day, she will be digging the hard wood for getting food. Clear? That is what the curse that Saint Peter gave to the lady. Or I can say Saint Peter cursed the lady. Then up she went through the chimney. See, mythology and other stories in our culture also, we have a lot of stories where we see that the saint gives curse and people change from one form to another. Well, there is no relevance to the practical life and there is no scientific reason behind it. These are just stories having some moral values. So here also the same thing happened. The saint cursed the woman, she became a bird. And she flew through the chimney. You remember that fireplace where she was baking cakes? Now through the fireplace there was a chimney on top. So this bird flew, bird means the woman, flew through the chimney. Never speaking a word. She did not get a chance to speak a word. Everything happened so fast. The saint cursed her. She changed herself into a bird and she flew through the chimney without speaking a word. And out of the top flew a woodpecker. So she entered the chimney and from the chimney from top came the woodpecker. That means she got converted into a woodpecker. She became a woodpecker. Now what is a woodpecker? Woodpecker is a bird with a long beak that climbs a tree and finds insects. As I said, they keep digging and digging just to find insects. For she was changed to a bird. So what was she changed to? She was changed from a human being. She got changed into a bird. Now the twist over here is Though from a human being, okay, man to the woman, real. See, I told you, man, there is no evidence of this to be true in the beginning. Even the poet said that, even the poetess said that she doesn't believe it is true. But people say. See, we all have heard a lot of stories from our grandparents where in our this religious books also there are so many stories where one character changes into another character, but we do not know about the reality. Same thing here also, we do not know about the reality, and the poetess also says that she also does not know whether it is true or not. This is just a belief and a ballad to give moral value to people. Now the twist over here is, she was a woman, she changed herself into a bird, but when she was a woman, she was wearing a scarf. Scarlet cap, not scarf, sorry. She was wearing a scarlet cap. Scarlet cap means a bright red color. A bright red color cap on her head. And that cap remained on the bird. And that was left the same. So what happened is, she was a human being, she changed into a bird. When she was a human being, she was wearing a red cap. That red cap remained with her when she changed into a bird, and rest of all her clothes got burnt. They got burnt as a coal in the flame. The way you burn coal in the flame, what is ash? So rest of her clothes got burnt. Right? She went into a chimney she went from a chimney. She was human. No, she was a bird. How can a human enter a chimney? She was a bird. Now she turned into a bird and she entered through the chimney and went out and flew. So that red scarlet. Now I'm writing the meaning of scarlet. Scarlet means bright red color. Bright red color cap. That was there with her when she became a bird. Rest all her clothes turned into coal in the flame. And every country school boy in that place, in that location, in that country, whoever school boy was there, little boy, children were there, they all saw the bird in the wood. How did they identify that it was the same bird? With that red cap, scarlet cap. Has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day. And till today, she is there. That means that same bird with the scarlet cap is still seen wandering here and there in the wood. Wood means forest. Wood means forest over here. And what is she doing over there? She is boring and boring for food. What is she doing? She is digging and digging the wood, the trees, the barks of trees for food. So this is a story where the main, I can say the main theme of the story is, you should be kind enough, you should have a big heart to give away to people who are in need. Saint Peter was hungry, he wanted food, he was wandering from one place to another. This lady should have helped him, should have given him food. That's what we do when a hungry person comes to our house, maybe a beggar or any religious person. What do? We give them food. So this lady should have also done. The lady should have also done this, but she didn't do. And what happened? What was the result? She was cursed, she changed, she was converted into a bird. Yes, ma'am, you can say you don't be miser, help the people who are in needy, be kind-hearted, should not become greedy or selfish. These are some of the moral values that you gain from the poetry. Okay, fine. Now, I'll give you just 2 minutes time. You can ask me your doubts or I'll start asking questions. 2 minutes break. You can ask me your doubts. Don't be greedy and try to help people who are in need. Okay, yes, Archita. I think this is Archita. Yes, yes, you're right. Answer is correct. Text me your doubts if you have. Who was the saint a god? Yes, a follower of God. See, all these saints are followers of God, and they are, you can say, they are next to God. They are next to God. Bhagwan ka dusra roop. That's what we do also. Sadhu, Paramatma, we all believe on them. Why? They are not actually God, but they are messengers of God. What is the meaning of black as coal in the theme? Black as coal means her clothes were burned as black as coal. When you burn coal, it becomes all black. Same thing, her clothes also turned black. I don't know, Archita. It is not mentioned in the poetry how her clothes got burnt. Anyway, it is just a poetry, and I think there is no reality in this poetry. So I exactly don't have any idea how her clothes got burnt. Though it's an interesting question, but I don't have any idea. Okay, anything more? Doubts? Else I'll start asking questions. Imaginary, yes, Mayank. You can only imagine that, okay, the lady turned into bird with the cap and her clothes burned. Any other doubts? Therefore, the feathers of woodpecker is black. Okay. Yes, woodpeckers are black. But why the cap didn't burn? It is just a story. The cap didn't burn just to make the readers or make it understand that the bird with that red cap is nobody else but that woman. So that this bird can be differentiated from the other birds. That is the reason the poetess has not burned the cap but kept the cap as it was. Shelf matlab, what we say, in my room you might have seen there are shelves where I keep books. Thakka in Odia you say. So that is called shelf, where you keep all the things. Those are called shelves. Fine. Anything else? Any doubt? Or I should start asking you questions? No, no doubts. So shall I start asking questions? Okay, ma'am. Okay, fine. Now my write down 3 words. Only 3 words. Write down 3 words which can be used to describe the character of the lady. 3 words that can actually describe the lady in the poetry or in the ballad. 3 words that can describe. 3 words at a time, Sarthak, not one after the other. I want all at a time. I can find a lot of you not texting, like Swastika. Yes, he was not living in Northland. He just came to Northland. As these kind of saints, they do not have any particular place to live. They keep on wandering. वो लोग भटकते रहते हैं एक जगह से दूसरा जगह, फिर दूसरे जगह से और एक जगह. So the saint also did the same thing. He kept on wandering from one place to another. And when he came to Northland, this incident happened. Miser, greedy, selfish. Okay. Greedy, selfish. Achha, this is all the same thing you are writing. Cruel. Okay. Easy question I'm asking you. What did the lady change to? What did the lady change to? Okay, change to a bird. Now you have to write a full sentence here. I'm asking a question. You have to type in full sentence. After changing into a bird, what she had to do? What the bird had to do? Sorry. What did the bird do after changing into? What did the lady do after changing into a bird? What did she do? She did many things. You can write down 2, 3 things only. She went through the chimney. Okay, then she had to dig for food. Boring. Okay, she had to bore for food. Okay, then something else is also there. Fine, good, Sarthak. Complete sentence. She had to bore the bark of the tree to get food. Very good. Something else she had to do. What is that? Something more is mentioned in the poetry. What is that? She had to. I still give you some time to answer. She had to build her nest. Look at this stanza where it is written, now you shall build as the birds do. You can see this is stanza number 1, 2, 3, 6. Stanza number 13. It is written, you shall build as the birds. That means she had to build a nest like the birds do. Yes, okay. Where is Ayush Mohanty? I'm not getting any response from him. Okay, the next question. How did Saint punish the lady? How did Saint punish the lady? You have to write in details what curse did he give. By cursing is correct. Yes. By giving him curse, by giving her curse. What was that curse? You need to mention that. He cursed her to be a bird. Okay, he made her a bird by cursing her. He cursed her and turned her into a bird. Correct answer. He cursed her and turned her into a bird. Where was the woman baking cake? The next question. Where was the woman or the lady baking cakes? Where was she baking cakes? In her cottage. I want the exact word. There is one particular word that is mentioned. I want that word. I want that particular word where she was baking cakes. Hearth. Yes, the right word is hearth. Okay. How many times, now listen to my next question. How many times did she bake cakes for the saint? How many times did she bake cakes for the saint? Yes, Ayush, I got your answer. Selfish, greedy, miser. How many times did she bake? 3 times. Correct, 3 times. Did she give the cake to the saint? Fine. Did she give the cake to the saint? No, she didn't give it to the saint. Now listen to the question, next question carefully. Why did she not give the cake? She baked the cake 3 times. 3 times she baked cakes, but she did not give. Why? Why didn't she give the baked cakes? Why didn't she give the baked cakes? No, I want the exact answer. I'm not asking what kind of a lady she was. Why didn't she give? What thoughts came to her mind? Yes, Pushpak, I got your answer. Because it's too large for giving him free in amount. Okay, I want that exact answer because she thought that they were too big to give away. Correct answer, Chita and Pushpak, right? She found the cakes that she baked, she found them too large to be given away. So she decided not to give the cakes. So see, sometimes you may get a question like this. Now, let us come to the examination point of view. What kind of questions you may get? You may sometimes get long questions where they might ask you, what would you have done if you had been at the place of the lady? I repeat, what would you have done if you had been at the place of the lady? This is an important question of this chapter. Now tell me, what would you have done? Had you been at the place of the lady? Had you been at the place of the lady? Aditya, I'm not getting any response from you. I would not be myself. Okay, and you would have given this, I would have, given, Sarthak, I would have given the cake to the saint. I would have given him at most 100 cakes. Okay, so you would have baked 100 cakes and given. I would have given the cake that I have baked for me to the saint. Okay, fine. Okay. So I think by asking you all, I would have given him the cakes. Okay. Now you are just writing it in one sentence, but yes, when you get questions, and yes, let me tell you one thing, that the CBSE pattern has been changed. You will not be getting 8 marks long questions anymore. The long questions will contain a mark of 5. So in case you get a question like this, you have to elaborate and write. You have to write, the lady was not right by not sharing the cakes, and what you would have done if you would have been in her place. You have to elaborate and write. Fine. So I think more or less you all have understood the poetry very well. In case of any doubts, you can always connect with me and ask me. And yes, the poetic devices and all will be discussed in the next class in our regular classes. So for today, we will take a leave and I'll end the live stream now. I hope you all have understood. and I found the class quite fruitful and smooth without any disturbance. In case you have missed any part of the lesson, in case due to the internet problem or any other issues, you can please go through the recordings once again. Go through the recordings, and yes, in case of any other queries, you can always get back to me. I'm always there to answer your questions. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, fine. Welcome all of you. Fine, then we'll end the class here. Bye-bye, and connect with you in the next class. Bye-bye.